Long before Europeans arrived, Canada was home to many Indigenous peoples. These First Nations, Inuit and Métis communities thrived across the vast landscape. They were skilled hunters, fishermen, and traders. Their cultures were rich with stories, songs, and traditions passed down through generations. The land, rivers, and animals held deep spiritual significance for them. For centuries, Indigenous peoples lived in harmony with nature, their lives intricately woven into the fabric of the Canadian landscape. The first Europeans to reach Canada were not the French or British, but Viking explorers. Around the year 1000, Leif Erikson and his crew landed on the shores of what is now Newfoundland. They established a small settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows. However, the Vikings did not stay long, and their presence had little lasting impact on the Indigenous peoples. Centuries would pass before Europeans returned to Canada's shores. In the 16th century, French explorers arrived seeking riches and a new route to Asia. Jacques Cartier explored the St. Lawrence River, claiming the land for France. The French soon realized the value of the fur trade. Beaver pelts were highly prized in Europe. The French established trading posts and settlements, laying the foundation for New France. The fur trade brought the French into close contact with Indigenous peoples, forging alliances and shaping the future of Canada. The British were also interested in the riches of North America. They established colonies along the Atlantic coast, south of New France. The British too engaged in the fur trade. This competition for land and resources led to tensions and conflicts between the French and British. Both sides sought alliances with Indigenous nations, drawing them into the escalating rivalry. The stage was set for a major clash between the two European powers. Section 5. A Clash of Empires, the 7 Years' War. This monumental conflict reshaped the global balance of power and had far-reaching consequences for the future of many nations. In 1756, the simmering tensions between France and Britain erupted into the 7 Years' War. This war was not just a European conflict, it was a truly global war that involved many other nations and territories. This global conflict played out in Europe, North America, and other parts of the world. The war saw battles in the Caribbean, West Africa, India, and the Philippines, making it one of the first true world wars. In North America, the war was known as the French and Indian War. This name reflects the alliances between the French and various indigenous tribes who fought against the British and their colonial allies. The British, with their superior navy and resources, eventually gained the upper hand. Their naval dominance allowed them to cut off French supplies and reinforcements, which was crucial in turning the tide of the war in their favor. The war ended in 1763 with the signing of the Treaty of Paris. This treaty had significant implications, redrawing the map of colonial possessions around the world. France ceded control of New France to Britain, marking a turning point in Canadian history. This transfer of power laid the groundwork for the future development of Canada as a British colony and eventually as an independent nation. The war also had profound effects on Indigenous peoples who had allied with both the French and the British. The shifting alliances and territorial changes disrupted their lives and altered the balance of power among various tribes. Economically, the war strained the finances of all the major powers involved. The enormous costs of the war led to increased taxation and economic hardship, which in turn sowed the seeds of future conflicts and revolutions. Key figures such as British General James Wolfe and French General Louis-Joseph de Montcalm became legendary for their roles in the conflict. Their leadership and strategies were pivotal in many of the war's decisive battles. In the aftermath of the war, both Europe and North America faced the daunting task of rebuilding and recovering from the extensive damage and loss of life. The 7 Years' War left an indelible mark on the history of the 18th century and beyond. Section 6. Birth of a Nation Confederation in 1867. After the British conquest of New France in 1763, the French-speaking population of Quebec maintained their language, religion, and culture. They held on to their unique identity despite the British rule. Meanwhile, British colonies developed in other parts of Canada, each with its own distinct characteristics and challenges. In 1867, fearing American expansion and seeking greater autonomy from British control, the leaders of these colonies saw the need for a united front. The threat of American manifest destiny loomed large, and the colonies wanted to ensure their security and prosperity. These colonies united to form the Dominion of Canada, a new political entity that would allow them to govern themselves while still being part of the British Empire. This union was a significant step towards full independence. The Dominion initially consisted of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the Province of Canada, which was a large and influential region. The Province of Canada was then divided into two separate provinces, Ontario and Quebec. This division allowed for better representation and governance of the distinct English-speaking and French-speaking populations. This marked the birth of Canada as a nation, a momentous occasion celebrated with parades, speeches, and the signing of important documents. The new Dominion had its own government and constitution, but it remained part of the British Empire. The British influence was still strong and Canada continued to rely on Britain for defense and foreign policy. However, this was the beginning of a journey towards full sovereignty and the development of a unique Canadian identity. Section 7, Connecting Coast to Coast, the Transcontinental Railway. Following Confederation, Canada embarked on an ambitious project, building a transcontinental railway to connect the country from coast to coast. This was a massive undertaking requiring immense engineering feats and facing harsh terrain and challenging conditions. The Canadian Pacific Railway was completed in 1885, linking British Columbia to the eastern provinces. This railway facilitated trade, settlement, and communication, playing a pivotal role in Canada's development. Section 8, The Wars to End All Wars Canada on the Global Stage. Canada, as part of the British Empire, was automatically drawn into World War I in 1914. Canadian soldiers fought bravely in Europe, distinguishing themselves in battles like Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele. Canada also contributed to the war effort through industrial production and resources. In World War II, Canada once again stood with Britain and its allies. Canadian troops fought in Europe and the Pacific, making significant contributions to the Allied victory. Section 9, The Road to Autonomy, Achieving Independence. Canada's participation in the World Wars fostered a growing sense of national identity and a desire for greater autonomy. Gradually, Canada gained more control over its own affairs. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster recognized Canada's legislative independence from Britain. In 1982, Canada patriated its constitution, severing the final legal ties with Britain. Queen Elizabeth II remained Canada's head of state, but Canada was now fully independent. Section 10, A Mosaic of Cultures, Embracing Multiculturalism. Throughout the 20th century, Canada experienced significant immigration from all over the world. This influx of people from diverse backgrounds contributed to the richness and diversity of Canadian society. In 1971, Canada officially adopted a policy of multiculturalism, recognizing and celebrating the contributions of all its citizens, regardless of their origins. This policy distinguished Canada from other nations with assimilationist policies, promoting inclusivity and respect for cultural differences. Section 11, Rights and Freedoms, A Legacy of Inclusivity. This section of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a cornerstone of Canadian values and principles. In 1982, Canada adopted the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This monumental event marked a significant turning point in the nation's history, embedding a commitment to human rights and freedoms into the very fabric of Canadian society. This document, enshrined in the Constitution, guarantees fundamental rights and freedoms to all Canadians. It serves as a powerful legal tool that protects individuals from discrimination and ensures that everyone is treated with dignity and respect. These include freedom of speech, religion, and assembly, as well as equality rights for all, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. The Charter has been instrumental in advancing the rights of marginalized communities, providing a framework for challenging injustices and promoting inclusivity. The Charter has had a profound impact on Canadian society, promoting equality, fairness, and social justice. It has empowered individuals and groups to stand up for their rights and has fostered a culture of respect and understanding. It stands as a testament to Canada's commitment to human rights and its aspiration to be a just and inclusive society for all. The Charter continues to inspire and guide Canadians in their ongoing efforts to build a more equitable and harmonious nation, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive and contribute to the common good. From classrooms to courtrooms, the principles enshrined in the Charter influence every aspect of Canadian life. It shapes policies, informs judicial decisions, and educates future generations about the importance of human rights and freedoms. The Charter's legacy is visible in the vibrant, multicultural tapestry of Canada today. It celebrates diversity and encourages a spirit of unity and cooperation among all Canadians, regardless of their background or beliefs. As Canada continues to evolve, the Charter remains a guiding light, reminding us of the values that unite us and the shared vision of a society where everyone is free to live, love, and pursue their dreams without fear of discrimination or prejudice. A legacy of inclusivity is not just a chapter in Canada's history. It is an ongoing journey towards a more just and inclusive future for all. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a living document, continually shaping and reflecting the nation's commitment to equality and human dignity.